All right, let's cut some steel.
So you'll see here in this next couple picks, I've cut a couple of notches in the steel. I do that for a couple of reasons, but mainly to eliminate any runoff from the grinding wheel. I don't want to be cutting into any areas where I don't want to cut. And two, I do that just to eliminate the steel from getting too hot.
All right, so we've gotten it roughed out. Now we're gonna have to take this over to the belt sander. Once it cools down, I'm able to hang on to it a little bit, and we'll work away at it nice and slowly.
The RPMs on this belt sander aren't very high, so it doesn't generate heat that fast in the piece. But every now and then when you start to feel it, just give it a quick dunk in the bucket of water, and you should be good to go. But just keep mindful, if you feel the heat growing in your hand, maybe just give it a dunk, just in case it will cause some problems later on in the project.
Sorry guys, had to open up that garage door to get some light in here, but so we got our basic knife shape taken care of. We got our handle shaped out. Feels pretty comfortable. It is slightly big still, but we're gonna drop that down just a little bit more when we do the final shaping. It should come out perfect. Holes are drilled. We kind of chamfered them out a little bit just to make it easier to accept the piece while we're trying to glue everything together. But for now, we just got to get that Scandi grind in here. So I'm gonna go ahead, pop the jig on the vise, lock this guy down, and then we're going to get to it. Stick around. Before you grind your bevel on your steel, you're going to want to find the center line of your stock. In this case, I'm using 5/32 steel. Now, we're going to want to be able to scribe a line right down the center of this so we can keep our bevel nice and even throughout. Now, one of the tricks I've used in the past is I find myself a drill bit at the same size as our stock. So this is 5/32, this is 5/32, and we're going to put this on a flat surface and we're going to drag this down, and you'll see after it'll give us a perfect center line. But one way to be sure of that you've got a center line is that you grind it on one side, you flip it over, and you grind it on the other side, and that way you'll have a perfect line. If it's not the same, then you'll have two lines on either side, and either way you'll know where your center line is. Let's get that other side. Yep, looks good. So, hopefully you're able to see that line down the center there. But the whole purpose of us doing one pass on each side is, you know, that if your stock's off or your bit's off, either way, it'll make a thicker line down the center, but you'll know where your center is. So, I think we're pretty good like that. Hopefully you can see that line there. But now we're ready to put that in the vise and start grinding and start filing away. All right, guys. So now we're going to set this guy up onto our little jig here. We've got our one post here where we slide this up against. It's going to hold it there. We're going to put a clamp over here to hold everything down. And then I've got this other bolt here, which is going to keep the knife in place from all the sanding, so we don't have things sliding around or moving around on us. And we want to keep it firm so it stays in the same spot so we can make sure everything gets even. Now, basically what we'll do is we'll make sure that the blade's in place, and we'll line it up against the bolt and our file to make sure that we have a spot that we like and that we want to work from, and then we're just going to go ahead and clamp it down.
It's a good idea before you start to sand down the sides of your file. This will keep your plunge line from moving around on you, or your ricasso from being uneven. So do this real quick and you'll stay nice and straight.
So one other thing I want to mention is you're going to need to have a nice little steel brush or metal brush here, brass brush, some kind of brush that you can clean out your file from time to time. As you're working on this, your file may become dirty or clogged up, and you don't want it to make you work harder for nothing. So it'll block up your teeth and it won't cut as nice. So just give it a quick clean up from time to time and you should be good to go. So I do want this to be a relatively high Scandi, and to make sure that we are on the right track and following our little line here, we're going to use the line that we scribed in here and this top line here as our guidelines. So we may have to adjust the eyelet up or down to make sure that we're in the right spot. But I think we're looking pretty good here for the time being. So we're going to go with this, and if we need to make some adjustments a little bit later, we'll go with that. Alright guys, we're looking pretty good, and we are very, very close to our line now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. We're going to work on the other side, and see where we're at. Now the good thing is, because I put this post in the center, the only bolt I have to change is this guy. So this guy is going to go here, and then we just have to flip the blade over and we're in business. That was spot on, but I'm actually a tiny little bit off. I mean, it's really, really tiny, but that's going to bug me, and I'm going to have to fix that. So I'm going to keep on going as I am now, and then a little bit later I'm going to come in with a smaller file and try to take this guy back to match this guy a little bit later. So we'll see how that goes. But if you can, and it's at all possible, take your time and really get it perfectly lined up. And right now, if I get in close enough here, you can see it's got all the file marks all kind of ground in there, and we want to get all that junk out. The more we can clean up now, the less work it'll be later after we heat treat it. And after you heat treat, you really don't want to be digging into that stuff with your sandpaper. It's just going to take twice as long when the wear resistance is actually higher. But we've already started on this side. It's looking pretty good, but if you get a little bit closer, you can see there are some lines that still need to come out. But as long as we get all that stuff out, it'll be much easier to do later on. So basically, what am I doing? I've got a good old sanding block, some sanding paper, and I'm just going to town on it. All right. So we're switching to wet dry, 400 grit. Get a little WD-40 on there, and we'll start polishing her up. All right, so I don't know any good way to get this done besides good old elbow grease, but I like to wrap my sandpaper around my ruler, and it gives me a good flat position to try to hold and keep on going back and forth. And one thing I've noticed is that you can go in one direction for a long time and get good results, and your piece will start looking really nice. But once you start going in a different direction, all of a sudden some of those scratches that you may have missed pop back up again. So what I like to do is I do 2 or 3 passes of the full blade in one direction like this. Once I've done my 2 or 3 passes, I start going back to this one, and I keep on scratching away until all those previous lines are gone. And this way we could really see the progress that we're making as we're going along with our now 600 grit sandpaper. So after a whole lot of sanding and a little bit of tears, we're pretty much where I want to be. I went up to 1,000 grit on the blade, got her shined up pretty nice, and looks pretty good. It's not quite mirror, but you can kind of see me back there a little bit. It's pretty cool. And it looks great. And the handle's pretty much shaped out the way I like it. I find it quite comfortable in the hand. I like a beefy handle anyway, so for me this is going to work out pretty good. So I think it's pretty much time to heat treat. We got this smoothed out pretty nice. It's all sanded up, cleaned up, ready to go. So I think now's the time to fire up the forge, get the oven preheated, and get this guy going. Sorry guys, as you can see I got my little forge in here behind me, getting warmed up. I actually have a file in there right now heating up, and what I want to do is I've got my oil just over here. I want to heat up my oil a little bit so it's not ambient temperature or room temperature when I go to heat treat. I really don't know too much about this, so I'm not going to try to steer you in the right area. I found it pretty hard to find some information on this while I was looking around. Even the instructions on there, even the instructions on the package that the steel came in had its own way of doing it. But I had a good buddy of mine shoot me a message and tell me that 01 tool steel is in fact not the best steel for a home guy to do to heat treat. Basically said that it needs to be brought up to a certain critical temperature and needs to soak there for about 10 minutes or so. We are not going to be able to do that. I don't have a furnace. We're not going to be able to guarantee we keep that temperature properly and all that stuff. So that's pretty much an impossible thing for us to do. What I am going to do, however, is I'm going to bring it up to non-magnetic and try to keep it there reasonably in that position for a little bit before I give it the dunk. And I still think that we'll be able to get something decent, but we probably will not be able to get the best out of the steel, as Craig from Maple House Knives happened to let me know. So thanks a lot, Craig, for that information. For those of us that are at home, Craig also suggested this to me, and I already knew it, that 1084 is probably your best bet to look for when you're trying to do a home projects like this, because it's easily quenched in oil straight out of a forge like this, or charcoal, or whatever you want to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I'm going to do today, and then we're going to go out and test that knife whenever it's ready, and we're going to see how it stands up. If it does break or whatever it is, the next time we build the knife, we're going to take that blank after it's ready to go. We're going to send it off to somebody, and we're going to have them heat treat it, and then we're going to test that knife and see what the difference is. But for today, let's get that temperature up, and we'll see where we're at. Quick test. looking pretty good. I'm gonna get this into the oven real quick and give it a wipe down and get it into the oven real quick. And we managed to stay straight. Perfect. Sorry guys, so what I did is I had this little magnet stuck to the side of my table here, and I was sitting on a lawn chair and I was poking in and out with the in and out of the forge, and I took the knife out and I touched it on the magnet to make sure it was non-magnetic a couple of times, 3 or 4 times in a row. Did a couple passes back and forth, touched it, back and forth, touched it, back and forth, touched it, and then finally I gave it a dunk, and I left it in there to cool. I'm not even sure if I got all that on camera, to be honest, but one of the main things that I've read that was consistent with everybody's information was that before the blade gets down below 120 degrees, you want to have that in an oven, heat treating or tempering for the first temper. So that's what I did. I ran inside the house. I had my oven preheated already at 400 degrees, and I chucked that in there for an hour. We're gonna let that cool down to room temperature. Then I'm gonna clean it all up, and we're going to, once it's cleaned up, we're gonna have another look at it again, and we're gonna temper it one more time. And when we do that second temper, we're gonna see if, at least I think it's gonna work like this with 01 tool steel, is we should get that funny yellow color on it. Now I'm hoping that all that work we did before, shining that knife blade up and getting it all ready, made a difference and really made it look nice, or makes it easier to clean up later on. But we'll see how that works out. But I think my theory is right. So, all right guys, so we've done the quench. We are perfectly straight. We've done the quench. It's nice and hard. File just skates right off there. And we've done the first temper. Now we're just going to clean up all this junk, get all this junk off, and then we're going to put it back in for the second temper. Now hopefully all that work we did in the beginning is going to make it a little bit easier on the blade and get that all nice and shiny again, like it was before. But then we'll be in business. So let's get started. All right, so we got our knife blade here. We're going to give it a couple of shots of WD, and I'm going to go right for the 600 grit again. From there, we're going to start from the 600 grit, and hopefully that'll not give us too much work to clean it back up a little bit again later. Well, we got the blade all done. I will admit it, I went up to 1000 grit with this, and then I said, you know what, I just want to take it to the next level and put a little polish on there. So I stuck it on the buffing wheel. Looks pretty awesome. You see, I almost got a mirror finish, pretty much anyway. Looks pretty nice. So I'm gonna pop this in for the second temper, and then we'll clean it up the rest of the way, and then we'll put that handle on. So stick around. Sorry guys, this is the second temper. You can see we've got this nice like a straw yellow color on the blade. Now that's basically what we want to be, where we want to be. That just means that the temper was successful. So we are going to go ahead and give this a nice little cleanup here. We are going to buff this out, get it nice and silver, and then the only thing that's left after that is to finish up this handle. So I'm kind of excited the way this is going. I think this is going to be a pretty badass knife, but we'll see. All right. There we go. Mission accomplished. This always happens when I get into these DIY projects. You start focusing in on what you're doing, and everything else becomes oblivious. Unfortunately, while I was setting up my Corby bolts from my handle material to start shaping my handle material, my battery died, and I missed, I think, almost all the drilling. But anyway, I'll show you what I got, and then we'll get into it. But how these Corby bolts work, for those of you who have never used them before. Don't drop this. You got one little side with a screw, and you got one little side with a shaft on it. Now, when you drill your initial holes through your handle material and through your knife blank, you want it to be the size of the shaft. Then you're going on the handle material only, you're going to drill a second hole of the size of the head, so the head can fit in. But you're not going to go all the way through. You're going to go down to just about, I did about 2/3 of the way down, and I left. You see how it has that little shelf there? Well, that's going to help squish everything together when you screw it in. So I did drill my holes. My Corby bolts line up. Everything is good. I've got my hole in the center for my mosaic pin. That works good. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to get rid of a lot of this excess stuff. We're going to put the liners in there, by the way. Then we're going to get rid of all this excess stuff, and then we'll be able to put it all together. So, bugs driving me crazy. Holy smokes. Anyway, let's get that done, and then we'll hopefully I'll pay more attention to my battery. Won't have to worry about running out anymore. That's looking pretty good. It's going to fit onto the handle nice. I think we should just do a quick dry fit, see how it looks, and maybe we can shape it out, and then we'll come close to gluing it up. It's all right. We got the front bit on. All the pieces are kind of mechanically held together with the Corby bolts. It was kind of touch and go. I wasn't sure if it was all going to fit on there or not, but we got it on. So here's the thing. We're going to have a go at this right now, just to get all this area down to the steel with the angle grinder. Then we're going to glue everything together. We're going to put the mosaic pin inside. We're going to put the Corby bolts in, glue all the Corby bolts together, get everything just glued together, ready to go. And then we're going to finish it off. So for now, let's just get the shape out with the angle grinder, and then we'll come back after and we'll epoxy it together. So let's get her going. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up in some Gorilla Tape before we lock it up in the vise, just so it doesn't put any scratches or damage the blade. It's in there nice and securely now, so we can go at it with the angle grinder. So there, guys, we got that all ground out. Now you've got a good idea of what it's going to look like. But first, before we do anything now, it's epoxy time. Alright, so we got a little bit of epoxy here. We're going to mix this up real nice. First thing we're going to do is just run a little bit of that on our Corby bolt. And we're going to push that through the handle. There we go. It's all the way through, and it's down as far as we can get it. Let's do the second one. Same deal. You don't need tons and tons, just enough. And when you push it through, it's gonna pass right through into the exterior. So put that down there. Make sure it's all the way in. There we go. Now, I think what I'm going to do is do it this way. The plastic bag. Put it on my finger. Rub that in. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to put any epoxy down in the hole of the holes of the Corby bolts. We are going to do that with, come on, get in there. We are going to do that with the where are we here? Go. Let's get the white one on. Got the right way. Push those down. Let a little bit fall down inside that hole. That's all right. Where the mosaic pin's gonna go. All right, let's get this blade on. It's fighting with me. There we go. All right, let's get our mosaic pin in. Where did my plastic go? There we go. Mosaic pin is in. Now we want to get the white one. On there. The red one in line. Make sure this is nice and covered. Oops. And that mosaic pen. Now, let's get these Corbys in. Ah, shit. There we go. Now, once I get one screwed in, we should be good to go. There we go. The hand's getting covered in crap here. Anyway, there's one. He's gonna lock it down pretty good. There we go. So there we go. Everything's gluing in. We'll give that time to cure. So now we're just gonna let it dry. And I gotta get this crap off my hands. All right. So see where we're at so far. I've just done a little bit of sanding just for fun, but just so you can see what the mosaic pin's gonna look like. But we got our basic shape all carved out. Now it's just about getting that final comfortable shape. And to be honest, I mean, it's huge right now, the handle, but it's actually pretty comfortable. It's not bad at all. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna take down these front faces just a little bit on the belt sander, and then from there we'll try to get our nice shape and contour, and hopefully we'll be able to get those nice red and white liners to pop out. So I guess first things first, we'll break out the angle grinder and start taking down the surface a little bit, and then we'll go from there. Today, I don't know if you noticed earlier on in the other video, earlier clips, I wasn't wearing a mask. I had my shirt pulled up over my nose. This fiberglass resin really does make a lot of dust. It's really not good for you, and really err on the side of caution. Get yourself some masks. I just picked up a big box full of them for future projects and this one, and it'll be fine for what I'm going to be doing. This is made for fiberglass and whatnot, so it'll be good. But don't mess around with this stuff. Your health, safety is number one. Now we're just going to put a little bit of like an hourglass shape into this thing, and then we're just going to round out the ends, sand her up with a final sanding, and then polish her up. But there's a little bit right up on here that we have to even out. This one comes more down to a point. This one kind of has a little plateau there, so we got to get rid of that. Alright folks, we're all done. I'll bring you in close. You don't need to see my ugly mug for this. I'll drop the camera down and you can take a look at it. The only thing that's left to do now is put an edge on it and make a sheath. I may do the sheath in another video, but as for the edge, most of you guys watching this already know how to sharpen a knife, so I don't need to show you that. But let me bring that camera head down and I'll show you a close-up of what we accomplished with pretty basic tools. There's nothing, no knife making specific tools involved in all this build, so I'm going to bring you in close, show you what you can do at home if you've got a bunch of simple tools. So let's take a look. So guys, there you have it. This is what was in my brain, and this is what came out. I got a little bit of a mark here that I should have gotten out, but it's no big deal. So we still got to put an edge on this guy. We got quite a bit of material left there to go, but that's okay. I'll take my time and I'll get it. But take a look at that. Nice mosaic pin in there. Corby bolts holding tight. Can't feel any transitions at all. Just perfect. Fits kind of. You see, it's got like a. Let's see if I can hold that up here. It's got a bit of an hourglass shape to it. It really locks into the hand really well. Super comfortable. So that fat little pommel on the back here. Well, not really a pommel, but you know, the ass end of the knife handle. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. Bit of a mirror finish on there. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a convex on this, convex edge on this, or if I'm going to pop it up to a full Scandi right up to the top. I can. It is flat. The ricasso was almost perfect, and then when I was sanding this this part down here, I had accidentally touched the corner there. But hey, I'm no professional. I'm just a guy in his garage. But you can make some pretty nice things out there if you take the time and check things, and take your time and just kind of figure things out before you start. So there's two things left that we're gonna have to do with this bad boy. Is we're gonna have to put an edge on it, for one. You guys know how to do that, so you don't need to sit there and watch me sharpen it up. And we're gonna have to make a sheath. So I think in the next video I'm gonna do a I'm going to do a sheath for this guy. We'll make that a part 3 of this whole build. And I think that'll be just about it for this build anyway. I think there will be others in the future. And maybe at some point or another, I may just do one and give one away. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but we'll see. Yeah. So there you have it, guys. I hope this this build of watching a dude in his garage make a knife inspires one of you guys to give it a try. You never know what you can accomplish till you put your mind to it, and you may just surprise yourself. So, oh, before I go away. So this guy here, guys, is my 5th knife I've ever made. This is actually the first knife I ever made. This guy was made out of an old file, and I did a video on it a bunch of years back. But I keep this guy in my toolbox for when I gotta cut open boxes and that kind of stuff. It's actually still pretty decently sharp, and it holds an edge not too bad, and it's tough as nails. But really, not the prettiest thing in the world. This guy here, I'm very pleased with. So you could see just by testing yourself and just not being worried about failing, you can pick things up in a hurry, and you can end up you can end up making some really decent stuff. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. My first one wasn't a beauty either, but it was straight ish, and but it holds an edge real well. This one is as straight as can be. It is nice to look at, I think so anyway, and well, we'll just see how it performs when we get it out and field test it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. You guys take care. Don't forget, when you have some time, get in that garage and try to challenge yourself. You never know what you can make, and get out and explore. I'm Mark from Vegetable Outdoors. Alright, I know the video is over, but just so you'll see, I did put a convex on there, and it took forever. I left a little bit too much material in here to it took forever to grind out all my stones, but I put a little convex on there, and it's super sharp. Here, take a look at this. Alright, so we'll just hold this knife with 2 fingers here.
Feel part of your skin.
There we go.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this knife build. But if you like these style of DIY videos, I've got a couple more you might want to check out. One where I made a neck sheath for my Open L number 8 Slim. And I got another one where I made a pulk for winter camping. Thanks for watching. Get out and explore.